President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, is failing in the war against Ukraine. This was stated by Chief of the Defense Staff of the United Kingdom. According to him, the war in Ukraine, despite the successes of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, may drag on, but Putin will no longer be able to achieve his goals due to a strategic failure.
Putin is failing all his military strategic goals. He wants to conquer Ukraine. It's not going to happen. He has always had problems with manning the vehicle crews he has. He does not have enough manpower. His forces on the ground are very weak. And we also see the wonderful, courageous Ukrainian Armed Forces. They are fighting for their country and they have accepted the international support we all provide. Tony Radakin, Chief of the Defense Staff of the UK, in an interview with The Guardian.
And the south of Ukraine units of the Russian occupying forces are trapped between the Ukrainian Armed Forces and the right bank. The invaders were offered to surrender. There are reports that the Russian military is demoralized and does not see the purpose of its presence there. The fire control we hold over the crossings and transport arteries across the Dnieper makes them realize that they are trapped between the defense forces and the right bank, the units that are in this part of the Kherson region, so they are offered a way out in the form of transition under the auspices of international humanitarian law or returning home, but it is necessary to understand how. Natalia Humaniuk, head of the United Coordinating Press Center of Security and Defense Forces of the south of Ukraine. The Russian command has ordered its soldiers not to leave their positions in the Zaporizhia direction and not to allow the defense forces to break deep into the occupied territory. This was stated by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. According to experts, Russian troops have concentrated a large number of their forces in this direction.
There is a rather large grouping of Russian occupation troops in the area of Melitopol, Tokmak, Gulaypole, Pology. Units of the 3rd Strategic Reserve Corps of the Russian Armed Forces are also deployed there. In addition, several units of tactical groups deployed in the north of temporarily occupied Crimea are operating in the interests of this subgroup.
The first step towards the deoccupation of the Luhansk region has been taken. The urban-type settlement of Bilogorivka is fully under the control of the Ukrainian Armed Forces and has been cleared of Russian occupiers. This was stated by the head of the Luhansk Regional Military Administration, Serhiy Haidai. According to him, after a successful counteroffensive by the Ukrainian forces in the Kharkiv region, the Russian troops started to build defensive facilities in the Luhansk region.
We should all have patience in anticipation of a large-scale deoccupation of the Luhansk region. This process will be much more difficult than in Kharkiv. There will be an uphill battle for every centimeter of the Lugansk land. The enemy is preparing to defend, so we will not go in with a parade. Serhiy Haidai, head of the Lugansk Regional Military Administration, on Telegram.
In anticipation of another counterattack by the armed forces of Ukraine in the region, collaborators and supporters of the Russian world loyal to the Russian occupiers are fleeing from the Bilokurakin and Troitsk districts of the Luhansk region.
They are trying to take with them documents confirming their illegal activities as part of the self-proclaimed authorities.
The only area where the Russians are trying to attack is the Donetsk region. Over the past 24 hours, the Defense Forces units repulsed attacks by the Russian occupiers near the settlements of Bakhmut as well as Mykolaiivka Druga and Vesela Dolina.
This situation is not easy for the Ukrainian defense forces. The Russians are trying to put pressure on our defensive positions. They are using assault units of the Liga and Wagner private military companies. They are actively throwing Russian servicemen into the fight, as well as citizens mobilized from the temporarily occupied territories of the Donetsk and Luhansk regions. The Russian army has no territorial acquisitions in this part of the front line.
Russian troops continue their atomic terror. On the night of September 19th, they shot the industrial zone of the South Ukraine nuclear power plant. This was stated by the press service of Energoatom. They publish a video of the movement of the strike.
One of the Russian missiles fell just 300 meters from the plant's reactors. The shockwave damaged the nuclear power plant building, shattering more than 100 windows. One of the hydroelectric units at Alexandrivka hydroelectric power station, part of the South Ukraine energy complex, shut down. 3 high-voltage power lines were also knocked out. At the same time, all 3 units of the plant are now operating normally. None of the personnel of the power plant was wounded as a result of the strike, from a statement by the press service of the National Nuclear Energy Generating Company of Ukraine Energoatom on Telegram.
Russia may have lost 4 combat aircraft in the past few days. This was reported by British intelligence. According to the UK military, Russian pilots often have a poor understanding of the situation.
Russia's prolonged lack of air superiority remains one of the most important factors leading to military weakness in Ukraine, from a report on the website of the UK Ministry of Defense.
One of the key aspects of the Ukrainian army's counteroffensive is space. This was stated by Volodymyr Zelensky in one of his addresses. According to him, it is necessary that the pace of providing aid to Ukraine by partners should correspond to the pace of Ukrainian troops. Earlier, the head of state said that the temporary lull currently observed at the front line was a preparation of the Ukrainian military for a new offensive. Since the start of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, the Russian Federation has lost almost 55,000 of its troops. Reported by Ksenia Bugay, Victoria Sinko, UATV News.